Hi, friend. If we haven't yet met, I'm Leah Simon. I'm the founder of The Box Co and the creator of The Comeback Box, which is all about making self-discovery attractive, approachable, and affordable. So to continue this, I am bringing on a guest to unbox their expertise. And today I'm chatting with Ali Wiecek, who is the founder and chief empathy officer of Square One. And Square One is focused on human-centered life design. So we're going to be unboxing life design with Ali today. So if the curtain is going up on your next act, this is definitely a woman you're going to want to meet. And Ali is here. Hi. And hi, Scott. Thanks for joining. Let me bring her up. Ali should be coming on.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, good afternoon to you.
Yes, good morning to you. Thanks for joining me so early.
Oh my God, it's such a pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, for anyone who doesn't know Ali, she is in Australia, um, and it is very early her time. So, I hope
Yeah.
you have a coffee and you had a chance to have a few minutes for yourself.
No, I actually started my morning with my normal routine. I normally wake up, I meditate. I actually gave up on coffee about 2 months ago, which is crazy. Um, yeah, I know. Now I cannot go back, which is really crazy.
Have you
And
switched it for matcha or something else?
Yeah, I'm doing chai lattes, which I don't know how healthy they are for you.
I think it depends on how much sugar is in the mix.
Yes, yes. So I need to figure out because you go to a coffee shop. Australia is huge for like the coffee culture, so it's all about going to the coffee shop, getting a takeaway, all those things. So anyway, but yeah. So I started my morning with no coffee, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm so ready. Thank you, Leah, and so nice to finally be doing this together.
Of course. And one quick thing that I've wanted to try is mud water. Have you heard of it?
Oh no.
So it's instead of coffee, it's naturally energetic.
Okay.
It has a ton of good things for you. I can't remember all of it, but I've been dying to try it.
Mud water. I'm writing it down. I'm all about trying new things. So thank you.
So, Ali, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your approach. I'm super excited to learn more about life design.
Oh, thank you.
And um, I would love for you just start with what life design is.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, I suppose life design is a combination of different methodologies. Different organizations do it differently. Life design is something that taps into human-centered design or design thinking, and so that is a methodology being used by large organizations like Pepsi, Airbnb, and many more in the world to really empathize with users. So the way they do it is that they first empathize with the users, their customers, define what are the challenges, the pain points, the needs, and then they go into a bit of a co-creation or ideation process, and it's in that ideation process where they move from problem to solution. And we humans are awesome at coming up with solutions before we identify the right problems to solve. And so the same process applies to design thinking for life, where you're actually able to empathize with yourself, with your surroundings, your environment, to really take that step back, to go back to square one, as I call it. And there is a reason why my business is called Square One.
Okay.
And then really sort of go within. There are many ways that you can go within in different aspects of your life, whether it's relationships, your career, your purpose, your vision, your health, your nutrition, your family, your relationships, whatever it is. And then ultimately you start defining different patterns that you actually want to create or you want to change or you want to remove from your life. And then you come up with solutions that you can then experiment. And this is the most important part of life design is you are by what's called bias to action. You're willing to try things. And even though it's scary, even though it's getting you out of your comfort zone, you're trying things that are not completely taking the leap. If you want to change your career, You don't just change it overnight. You just like, oh, let me have a few conversations with people, see what it feels to be in that field. Let me, if I want to become an entrepreneur, let me find out what an entrepreneur life could look like and feel like. And then you might realize that it's not for you, that it's totally for you, or it was a crazy idea altogether. So it's really about experimenting and trying new things. And that's in a nutshell. And when we combine different things like mindfulness, psychology, spirit hacking as well, because I think it's really important to keep it as at an intellectual level, as a framework is really important, but we need to really bring it back to the heart, to the soul and the spirit. So yeah, that's what the framework is all about.
I love that. I don't know if you know that my career before the Boxco was I was a strategist for
Oh,
brands and companies. So my clients were Pepsi, Amazon, HBO. Um, and it was really interesting because a lot of the times they were bringing me a product that they were able to create. And then it was my job to do research as to why would someone want this product? What is the problem that this product is solving? And over the last, because their R&D had come up with a cool new toilet paper that they could make,
yeah.
but why would anybody want this toilet paper? Um, then in the last, I'd say, decade, you heard a lot about user experience and
Mm,
human-centered design. And then my job became much more upstream, which was going and doing research and talking to people to find out what the problems that they were having. So I could then tell these companies, here's a problem that your consumer is struggling with in your category. How can you solve that? And I feel
yes.
like when you're talking about life design, that's what I hear as well, right?
Mm,
That we're jumping to the product that's going to solve it. And this could even be illuminating in terms of our purchase behavior. Like think about
yes.
all the things we see that we're like, yes, that's what I need.
That's
Like,
going to solve it. Yes.
yes, that's going to solve it. But we're not first starting with, wait, what's the actual problem we're trying to solve?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. Totally. Oh my God. And I was thinking about that quite a lot because, and I love your background because I suppose, and that's why your brand is so beautiful as well, Leah, because you got that mindset and that way of making things useful but beautiful and tangible for people, you know. And I suppose
Thank
it's,
you.
you're welcome. And I suppose for me it's the same, you know, I think, you know, we're very much accustomed to consuming before we actually understand the real roots of our issues or our problems or of our challenges. You know, we sign up for gyms we never use without really working through our beliefs and our limiting thoughts and everything that's happening within us that actually are not making us get our ass to the gym. You know, like we are doing all these things. It's like, why am I not succeeding? And so you feel that shame. And I suppose this process, what it really allows is like just take a step back, like literally take a step back, go within, experiment, be very vulnerable and very honest and very open to a process that would allow you to see things differently before you come up with solutions that you will feel guilty about. You might be spending time, money, and resources that you don't have. And this happens to a lot of people, you know, that we're creating a new program. And one of our things is like, we want people to finish this program. I've bought so many programs and online courses that I don't finish
Sure.
because they're giving me the right words and making me feel the right things like, oh my God, that's going to solve my problems. But my problem was never getting, you know, was never going to be solved by buying that thing. It was all about
Right.
me, right? So yeah, absolutely. I agree with the whole consuming thing.
And I love everything you're saying. I think another thing that doesn't set us up for success is we're not clear before we start trying to achieve a goal as to why we want it.
Right.
We don't do the upfront work. A gym that you never use, for instance, I think is a great example because I think for a lot of people, the goal doesn't really resonate with them. It's something that they think that they have to do or that they should do, but they're not doing it because they actually want to do it. So, you know, the box is designed in a certain sequence, for instance. And the first week is all about reflection and understanding what you really want to get out of your life before you start creating goals. And then the second week is all about goals and creating a plan. And I distill a book that I love by Mark Manson called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes, yes.
Which is all about looking at what you said you wanted to do and getting really real about it and looking back at it and being like, is this a goal that I actually want to achieve? Or am I doing it because Oprah or my mother or Women's Health said that I should be doing this?
Yes, exactly. So true. Oh my God. And I was doing some research around New Year's resolutions at the beginning of the year, because I was like, why people have these goals and they never meet them? Like personally speaking as well, right? And there was an incredible study done by the University of Sweden, and it said that just 8% of people who set New Year's resolutions achieve them. And there's many reasons for that. And I actually went into creating a audio training for this, because I was like, people need to know. And what one of the big reasons is, like, people don't understand the values that are driving those goals.
Right.
And people think, everybody's signing up to a healthier routine or doing these things in January. And then you go on social media and then you have this massive FOMO, like, oh, everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing this.
Yeah.
And then you look at what people are doing, but you never look within. You never look inside to go, what do I really want to do? And try and experiment with. And so you really never, to your point, to the unboxing live experience that you have created for your business, is you need to take that step in going, understanding what is it that you really want in your life, what are the values that are driving it, without feeling that, there is that FOMO mentality. Yes, you might gain inspiration from what other people are doing, but that doesn't mean you need to do the same things, So yeah, it is a big step. Absolutely.
Totally. I'd call it life strategy. The same way I did strategy for companies, it's really sitting down and getting clear on, okay, you want that goal. What's your strategy? How is it going to make your life better? How are you going to keep yourself accountable getting through this goal? What's the reward once you
Yes.
achieve it? One of my favorite quotes by Frank Lloyd Wright about strategy, he was talking about it with architecture, but he said, you can use a hammer on the construction site or an eraser on the drawing board.
Love that.
Um,
Love that so much.
so once you're really clear on why you're doing it, I think another thing that people don't achieve their goals or may not keep their New Year's resolutions is they approach it as this one big thing. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to start a whole new career. But that one thing has many, many steps to take within it. So I think one is people being able to think through and having mentorship like Square One to kind of, how do you break down that big goal into little steps?
Absolutely.
But then also not just the steps, but what are you going to do daily that's going to support that?
Yes, absolutely. No, absolutely. And Jackie, welcome. I was gonna text you, Jackie, before that. I was like, I'm going to a live, but I want to talk. Jackie is a friend. She's in the UK, fellow Australian. So I say fellow Australian. I'm not Australian by birth, but I'm Australian by citizenship.
Where were you born?
I was born in Venezuela, in South America.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
How long have you been in Australia?
I've been in Australia for, oh my goodness, 10 years. 10 years. Before that, I was in London for almost 7 years. And one of the reasons why the program or Square One exists really is because of how experimental my life has been and how it's helped me, grow as a person and get out of my comfort zone, do the things that are really uncomfortable, and
Yeah, it's so impressive. You're the founder, the chief empathy officer. I would love to hear a little bit about your background and why you started this company.
oh my goodness, for sure, for sure. I'll get back to the daily habits because I want to talk about that, the compound effect of those daily things. But yeah, I suppose, I started very similar to you, Leah, work in over almost 20 years in the corporate world for very big brands, Microsoft, Bayer, Luxottica, Siemens, very big brands. And I thought that was my happiness and that was going to give me everything I ever needed in my life. I grew up in an environment where my brother and I were the only first people in our generations to ever graduate from university. We had to make it. And so that's why I moved to London, to improve my English so I could get a better job, be somebody, and do all those things. Long story short, hey Rachel, so good to have you here, my love. Thank you for joining. Long story short, I was supposed to be in London for 6 months to improve my English. I definitely was not ready to leave in 6 months, and I stopped. I ended up doing a master's degree in marketing in London. I started cleaning offices. I worked in coffee shops, in bars. Was a nanny. I did all the things you had to do to make money, right? And then started my master's degree that actually led me to work for a fashion brand. That then led me to apply for a job that allowed me to work for this company that within 3 weeks of me being there was acquired by Microsoft. And still then I was in the marketing and communication space. That's what I was doing. So I was doing the marketing and communications for London, for the UK rather, and EMEA, and moved to Australia when I got married to my husband, who I met in London. And then, yeah, I thought, I want to continue that path of being career driven. Fast forward many years, I had my first baby, and I was like, whoa, I don't miss the corporate world at all, at all. And I went back. I was very entrepreneurial. I was creating a lot of these great projects around omnichannel customer experience. And I went back, and I never felt the same ever. I was never the same person that left that job. And that's when I started thinking my life needs to change. I feel empty. I feel hollow. I feel not like myself. And once I had my second baby, I decided to live that life, and I started my business. And 5 years later, here I am. It wasn't a straight line. I started at square one as an innovation practice. So we were doing customer experience design, innovation, capability programs, and a strategy for organizations. And about a year and a half ago, just before COVID happened, I was like, this still doesn't feel right. And then I'm like, this has to be all about the most beautiful experience that we can ever create, people's lives. And then I redesigned Square One, and I started again from scratch. And here we are, about to launch a brand new program, which is actually called Within. And I'm so pumped and excited and exhausted all at the same time. But it's been a long journey, and I'm so proud of everyone who's ever gone through this journey, because they have allowed me to go through this journey. And that's what I also want to do for other people. And that's why I'm here. So that's my purpose at the moment. And yeah.
I love that. It's so beautiful. And I totally empathize. I feel like we've had very similar journeys where we both did this for companies and brands.
Yes.
And then for me, during 2020, during the quarantine, the big epiphany for me was that I realized I was taking a lot of the tools that were helping me in my own life that had come from my professional research. I was taking them for granted, and that a lot of people don't know a lot about how their brain works and human behavior and habits, and why they feel disconnected or connected. And so I really wanted to start helping people with their life strategy. And I feel like I hear very much the same from you. How do I take human-centered design that I've been helping a company do with their website or with their product? And how do I create life redesign to help people do this with their lives?
Exactly, exactly. And I love your journey, Leah, because it sounds very similar and how you unpack everything that has ever helped you and pack it into a box, pretty much. That's incredible.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like ever since we first met in I think it was a clubhouse room, I just immediately felt like we were kindred spirits.
I love that. I love that. It's been so beautiful to see, yeah, the evolution of what you're working on and the power that you're bringing to people's lives. And in the beauty of it, I think a lot of people learn in different ways, and that tangible magic touch, I think that we've lost with COVID. There are no physical events, you don't touch people as much. There's everything that was hand, touch is not as much available to us. So I think it's so beautiful just to actually make it very organic and very, yeah, very tangible for people.
Well, thanks so much. Yeah, that was definitely like an intention of making it a way that you could disconnect from everything else and really have a few minutes a day to reconnect with yourself.
Yes.
So a lot of people asked, can't it just be emails or can't it be an app? And I was like, no, it has to be a physical thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Um, so tell us, can you walk us through Square One's redesign process? What
Yes.
is, the approach?
Yes. Oh my goodness, for sure. I was actually last night, and this morning, just before this call, I was finishing off a presentation that I'm doing for a company today about life redesign and live design. And so I got my little notes here as well, just so, because it's a bit early. And as I said, I'm not having my coffee. So let me open it all up.
Sure.
But so literally what we do is, so there's design thinking has 5 stages normally. So you go empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And those are sort of the 5 stages of design thinking. And, for strategy, you would use a lot of those as well. For live design, we changed that a little bit just because I think before you empathize with yourself, you need to make a decision to actually want to do that. And that in itself can be very challenging, just to really take that step back, that step in and go, I'm going to lean in the discomfort of the unknown and the ambiguity that comes in that process. And so that process we call initiate. And that initiate is when you go, okay, there is something that I don't even know what it is, but I want to change it. And it could be actually something pretty tangible. Like in my house, for example, we got 2 little ones, but my oldest, he's struggling a lot with his sleep, and he wakes up every night. And then I've gone into solution making for a long time, but I'm constantly troubleshooting what are the problems, why. And so we initiated a process where it's like, well, we want to lean into this, we want to understand what the heck is going on. And therefore we started the empathy process, which is in this case was like, okay, what is happening with his body, what is happening with his mind, what is happening with his spirit. We've gone through all of the path. And so ultimately what that does is that allows you to then have enough information. And that's what we call like when we start building patterns in the information. So, and that's when we could go through the definition phase. And that definition phase is where you normally look at everything that's in front of you, the conversations you've had, if you're actually doing something around your nutrition or your mental health and your wealth that actually might be linked to assessments. We do for the life purpose and life mission element of our programs, we actually do tons of different assessments for people to understand their values, their strengths, human design, which is a big thing for those who do have a human design. There are different types of human designs. There are different types of biologies, and we have an incredible expert that we bring that talks about something called Unani biotypes. And what that is how we are 70% biology, 30% personality, and our biology makes us who we are. Like, it's like you cannot change that. And people think that we're all personality and then we can change overnight or we can become this. It's like, no, you can't. That's not your biology.
Okay, I get that my biology dictates my eye color and my hair color. I get that.
Right.
But you're saying like whether or not someone is funny or kind is also biology?
Yes, so there will be ways that because of your biology, you're more analytical, you're more extroverted, you're actually willing to eat different kinds of foods. You're more likely to have a better or a shorter sleep depending on your biology. You're able to solve problems differently. You're able to engage with your environment and with people differently. So, for example, my Unani biotype, which is my biology, is someone who is a melancholic. Melancholic, you can actually determine this by people's faces, people's hands, and body composition. So a melancholic will be someone who's very analytical, is prone to depression if they don't look after their mindset, and ultimately they overthink everything way too much. They're in their heads way too much. Versus someone who is there's like another biology called what is it called? Oh my god, I'm trying to think. I can't remember right this moment, but there is someone that biology allows them to actually be super extroverted. They are great at people relationship, but they're terrible at achieving goals and actually unable to really finish a lot of the goals they have because they're all about the people. They're like, I just want to have fun. I just want to talk to people and I just want to like make everybody happy.
And this is a biology personality
Yes,
that you can tell
is
from someone's hand.
exactly right. Is amazing. And there's another one called phlegmatics, and there's another one called cholerics, which is more for men. But there could be women who are not choleric because women cannot be choleric, but they can be
What's
linked.
choleric?
Choleric is someone who is normally coming with a very determined attitude. They can be seen as aggressive, but they're not aggressive. All they want is like, I just want to achieve that goal, which
Right.
is really interesting because in the entrepreneurial world, you see a lot of successful entrepreneurs like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. He's a choleric. And people feel like, I just want to be like Gary. But it's like, well, you can't know. You're a melancholic. You never become Gary. You'll be overthinking the hell out of everything. And so it's really interesting. So we do a lot of that assessment because people are like, oh my God, I've been thinking about myself in such a different way. And so when you start looking at all of this data, then you're able to determine like who you really are. And then whatever solutions you create in your life, they're aligned to your values, to your biology, to who you are, like from the get-go. And so from there, what we do is that, okay, you know who you are, you understand the patterns, what are the potential ideas you can create in your life. And there are 12 different life categories that anyone can work on for your relationships. We do people and planet because I think it's very important for us to not grow within, but actually grow outside of us and help the world. We do a lot of things about health and well-being. We do a lot of things about relationships. We do a lot of things about financial and wealth, which is a big thing for people. A lot of things about your beliefs. We do tons of different things. So there's just 12 different categories. So you can actually start experimenting with different categories differently. And that experimentation mindset is like, okay, I'm going to try things and then I'm going to see how they feel. And there are three things that would happen once you start experimenting. The idea that you thought you wanted to try is perfect and you continue with it. You know, for example, if you were an architect and wanted to live your architect life and become an entrepreneur selling candles in local markets, and that just makes you so very happy. It's like,
Yeah.
awesome, you nailed it. Like, keep
Right.
going and see how that feels for a little bit longer. Some people might do that and go, what have I done? This doesn't feel right. And so then you might pivot or you might stop altogether. So what it really allows you is what I call the play sandpit, your live sandpit, where you just play in that sandpit for as long as you want. You're going to be experimenting with your life, these live experiments before you make a huge decision of leaving your jobs, leaving your partner, becoming a vegan if maybe vegan is not for you, whatever it
Right.
is.
Right.
And so that's when you then from there, once you understand if that's going to be part of your life, then you action it. And that activation part is when you then embed it into your life. So you might become, someone who is more into spirituality, or you might actually become someone whose habits and routines have completely changed and shifted and doing more of those daily micro moments. So anything can change in your life. And that's when that maturity really kicks in. But you can do this in many little problems as well as you can do this in many life big complex problems. So that's sort of the framework.
Wow, I love how intentional it is. It is so thoughtful. And I just want to make sure that I'm getting it all and for everyone. So to recap, the first phase, that sounded, what do you call that? That sounded a lot to me like self-discovery.
Initiate.
Initiate.
So you have initiate, then you have empathy.
Okay.
That's when you actually go within. Then you have define, and then you have ideation, which is that really beautiful creation process. And then you have experimentation. That's when you experiment and try and validate whether that's right for you. And then you have activation, which is actually when you roll out whatever experiment that felt amazing and spot on into your life.
So I love all the phases. I want to say experimentation, you kind of going through that is so helpful for someone like me. I don't know my hand type or biology, but I can just look back on I've been thoughtful, I've ideated what I think, I want to do or should do, and I skip experimentation and I go straight into activation, meaning I think I have it figured out. And activation to me is very much about commitment. And
Yeah.
now I'm committed, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I skip experimentation, I get super committed. And I think that has tripped me up before because I'm so committed and I'm holding on to it so tight at that point. I'm not allowing myself to step back and say, wait, is this what I really wanted? Is this what's working? Because
Yes.
to me, then I'm giving up because I committed to do this. So
Yes.
I love this idea of experimentation. I think that's super powerful.
Is huge. And so for we think that we were here, right? This is where we are, and sometimes we're like, but this is where I want to be. And then you take that huge leap, which is awesome, and a lot of people do it and then activate it and they're like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I did this, and then they roll it out and continue. But in your case, Leah, like when you take that huge leap and you're like, oh, I feel like I missed something. And
Right.
then you have like, this isn't working out, or I feel that I've taken a huge step without thinking. That could be a real great moment to go within and analyze your beliefs. Why did you take that step? What was really coming up for you?
Right.
But ultimately go back and say, well, is there a way that then I could maybe next time experiment with it? And I think, like even for me, recently with the program that I've been building, I was trying to jump into that activation so fast, but I'm an analytical person, so that doesn't help. I was trying to jump to that so fast, and I was like, I need much more information. I need to feel the data. I need to see it. And that actually gave me an awful lot of anxiety and stress and burnout and everything in between, because there was this huge sense of shame. It's like, but I should be here. I
Right.
should be here. I should be here. But sometimes you're not ready, even when you're pushing out. And I push out of my comfort zone a lot. Like I'm an experimental person. I'm always out of my comfort zone. And that gave me a huge sense of shame. And it's like, you know what? I just actually just forgot I could just experiment with it. And I took a different approach. I started building the customer facing artifacts before I was actually building the back end. And so what that really allowed me is to experiment with the concept with people and get a sense for like, oh yeah, this works, it doesn't work, they like this, they don't like this. And then actually go, perfect, that is all I needed to do, because that allowed me to, number one, commit to the action of actually building the back end by experimenting with the concept with people. And this is, a lot of the big brands, they do this in their personal business. They will create a prototype, they will test it out, they will gain insights and knowledge from that, and then they're like, perfect, that's what people want, let's do it, let's go
Right.
for it. And so that's exactly in life, let's just test that concept, validate it, and then if it's perfect, continue with it. If it's not perfect, no dramas, just pivot it. And if it actually doesn't work at all, then just put it in the bin. Let's go
Right.
back to your empathy phase. let's go back to defining what is it that you really want, let's
Yeah.
come up with new ideas. It's okay, you're in the sandpit, you're safe, no worries. So it is really about embracing that mentality of curiosity. Being comfortable in ambiguity for people can be really tricky, and then just experimenting. Those are the three, I guess, the formula. If we needed to have a formula about the mindset,
Yeah.
ambiguity, curiosity, and bias to action is key.
Yeah, and this is a huge aha moment for me and for anyone watching. I feel like everything Ollie's talking about with how she's creating her project, or even how I created the comeback box, I see how relevant it is to you creating something in your life. So, Ollie, I did the same thing with the comeback box. I created a prototype, and then I did a research round and I sent it out to many people and then got feedback after they'd gone through the experience. And, as humans, I think something beautiful about us is how much shared experience we have. Sometimes we feel alone, and you just need to start talking to people to realize everyone's going through it.
Yes.
And we all learn and process information and grow differently. So, one of the great things about the comeback box was how much I learned what people needed that wasn't in there, because their brain works a little differently than mine. They need a visual, or they need a framework to fill in.
Yeah.
Having just kind of open ended questions, for instance, was a little bit too vague for people. Like, give me a worksheet, give me boxes to fill in.
Yes.
But that's just an example of, a reminder to be gentle on ourselves, that because you read a Tim Ferriss article or a Brene Brown article and they say do XYZ because that's what works for them or a client they worked with, it's not necessarily going to work for you. And don't feel like a failure because some new habit you're trying to create isn't your jam.
Yeah.
Some people love getting up and gratitude journaling. Some people feel ridiculous. Like,
Yes.
don't, if it's not your thing, find what is your thing.
Exactly. And of course, and sometimes, your primitive brain is stepping in. It's like, why are you journaling at 5 a.m. in the morning? Are you insane? Let's go back to that cozy bed, right?
Right.
But and then that process in itself is that diverge process that happens with life design. You diverge into understanding an experience before you converge and go, oh, that felt really weird at first, but then it worked and now I love it. Or like now I still don't like it. And it's really interesting with, a lot of people say you got to be part of the 5 a.m. club, the 5 a.m. club. And I'm like, you don't need to be part of any damn club. I wake up really early, and I tell you I was not this person before, but I worked out that I experimented with it and now I'm an early riser, and that works for me. But your circadian rhythm is very different, and people feel really ashamed. It's like, I should be part of the 5 a.m. club and get so much
Right.
done. And it's like, no, a lot of people are really productive in the evenings, and they love to work until 3 a.m. in the morning and wake up at 10. And like, if that works for you and your circadian rhythm, and you're very productive in the evening and you can do all the things, then do it.
Right.
I think there's so much about that, and I feel so empowered to talk about that because I became a late person and now into a morning person. That works for me, but I never tell people you got to do the same. It's helped me immensely, but I don't think it would help everybody. So I think it's really important for people to go, what could really work for me, and try it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, there's a lot of ways that you can find your circadian rhythm and stuff like that, for example. So anyway, but yeah, really important.
I love this idea of experimentation within life design, and really just allowing yourself to play and see what works before you get super committed. Because I do think getting committed and you say, I'm going to do something and sticking it through, there's also value in that. But I love this beat that you've created before the commitment. And something that I love to remind myself is I'm a first time human over here. I
I
haven't
love that.
done all of this before.
Yes. Yeah, and I think sometimes we forget that we are students in this life, and
Sure.
we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. You know, I Google the heck out of everything I want to do. Thank God
Right.
to Google, right? And I think sometimes it's that you just got to find the information before, you know, there is any sense of shame or guilt for not being somewhere else. And I think that sense of experimentation really helps, that sense of commitment. Absolutely. You know, I think we need to create agreements in our lives that are going to be driving us to live a fulfilled life, you know. And I think sometimes it's about cheering up those agreements that we had. It's like I have to have a corporate career, you know, I have to have this lifestyle, but
Yeah.
that was making you miserable and unfulfilled and whatever, right? And that could work either way. A lot of people think, oh, you have a corporate career and then you turn entrepreneur and then you're happy. It's like, no, a lot of people go into entrepreneurship going, this is the most miserable I've ever felt in my whole life. You know, because not everybody's entrepreneurial material. Like entrepreneurship is hard, right? Like we know how hard it is. And I think
I think it's very specific.
it's very specific, and it's a great way to grow as a person. Like I always say, if I was not an entrepreneur and a mother, I don't know where I would be, because wouldn't be so far ahead on my journey, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
Mark Manson says something else, which I think is really smart. He sort of identifies, stop thinking that there is this choice you're going to make or this thing that you're
Mm,
going to have where you're not going to have problems. Like if you're poor and you want to be rich, great, but then you will have rich people problems. If you're
yes.
single and you want to be married, you will have married people problems. So
I
there's
love
this
that.
great distinction of really stepping back and choosing which problems do you want to have.
Yes.
And, you know, my journey being an entrepreneur, I'm only a year into it. And there are certainly problems. It's not like it's,
Yeah.
you know, sunshine and I'm frolicking every day rather than being in a corporate office. But but I love the problems that I have now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful journey in itself. So yeah, I think it's really about trying new things, being true to your own values and what you did live. You know, you left, you know, that life that you had, started a business that is now taking you to find ways to help other and help yourself as well as helping other individuals around the world to discover themselves better, you know, to
Yeah.
unbox a lot of those beliefs and thoughts and things that were holding them back. So I think is sometimes is important to see, are we here to be of service? And
Sure.
if the answer is yes, how might how can I do that? You
Sure.
know? Yeah.
And you as well. So tell us if people, I know you're working with people globally.
Mm.
So I think you have a couple courses and challenges that people can download now. And I think you also are about to launch some programs. So I'd love for you to just tell everyone if they're interested in working with you, where can they find that and what's coming?
Yeah, no, for sure. For anyone who would like to be part of anything that we got coming up, there is just a few things. So there is a free downloadable, which is the one I mentioned briefly before, which is beautiful. It's like a free downloadable audio, and it's for people the five strategies to stop procrastination, stop fear, and move into action. So it's really beautiful because it taps into like what are your values, you know, which life area you want to focus on, you know, where do you want to be, what are those daily rituals you want to create in your life, and how you're moving into action. And it's got a beautiful wrap up at the end about self-love and compassion, which I think is really important. And so that is available right now. So people want to go on my profile, on my link tree, or Square Ones on Instagram, they will find it. The challenge, we're a little behind, it's all happening, but the challenge is probably going to happen in a couple of weeks. But if anyone wants to know, it's going to be a 5-day challenge for people to redesign their lives. Of course, you know, it's not going to be troubleshooting every single life issue, but it's really going to be a great opportunity for someone to like tangibly look at something they want to fix or something they want to create and come and join us. That's going to be for 5 days. So anyone interested, just message me and I'll be able to share more information. And then off the back of that, yeah, we have a beautiful program that has been long time in the making, and that's for someone who is ready to transform every aspect of their life for the better. So we have different categories for someone who's like fully ready, that want to go through the 12 areas. And we're going to have a lot of brain training and hypnotherapy, because that's actually what's going to get us to move into a direction of like action taking. The framework is beautiful, but there are so many beliefs that we have that we don't even know we have at an unconscious level. And unless we remove them, like there is no way people can move forward. So we have a beautiful journey incorporating that, a lot of spirit hacking sessions, yoga, breathing work, mindfulness. It's going to be a beautiful experience. So yeah, that's going to be ready. Hopefully, yeah, not hopefully, it will be ready. It's just being right now tested and validated. That's going to be ready very shortly. So anyone, just message me and I'm happy to share more information.
Amazing. Okay, so we're gonna look out for the challenge that's coming soon, and the full program is also coming soon. And then there's an immediate downloadable course. And what is that called?
That is 5 strategies to move from fear into action, and people can actually access it right now if they just go to my link tree. It will be right there for them to download it.
Okay, amazing. Ali, thank you so much for joining me. I could talk to you forever. Before we wrap up, was there anything else you wanted to share today that we didn't get to?
No, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Look, thank you so much for having me. I've been meaning to, obviously we've been meaning to have this conversation for a few weeks, and it really means the world that you prioritize this and brought me in on your journey. So thank you so very much for making me part of this community. And yeah, such a pleasure to meet you, Leah. And yeah, and everyone, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for your flexibility. Ali and I were actually supposed to talk a few weeks ago, and I had a family emergency. And so apologies to anyone who follows this series. That's why I've been off for a few weeks. I needed to spend some time with the family. But Ali, thank you so much. And I'm so glad we got to do this. And I would love to do it again soon.
Yes. Yes.
As the
I would
challenge
definitely love
and the
that.
program comes out, you know,
Yes.
keep
You
us.
and I are going to talk, girl. So don't worry.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Ali and everyone, thanks so much for coming, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much, my love. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody joining. I appreciate it.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.